Hello, and welcome to A Peace in Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Gorley, and this is a podcast where you get to listen to a delightful young adult novel of peace and precipitation, and then listen to a little bit of commentary about such episode. You get to listen chapter by chapter, episode by episode. The episodes are the chapters, by the way, so hopefully you are able to listen to all of them. All right, so we are kind of getting into the crux of the book here. We are in chapter 16 of the novel. So we just had chapter 15. Everything's kind of teeing up for that. It's finally the day of the school play. The last chapter, we kind of had all this, Jen was kind of getting really nervous about the next day play. Had some nice quality time with her family earlier in the week or the week before. She was able to hang out with the youth pastor's wife, Lindsay, and it was going well, and things are kind of going okay, and we're now here at the play, which Jen was very, very nervous about. She was and here we are. So I kind of want to like say more, but then I want to give out. It's gonna kind of read the chapter, and you get to see what happens for yourself with this. So. All right, so chapter 16. All right, it says, showtime finally arrived. The lights were down. The orchestra played. The curtain opened. Jen was in the first act and was happy that she could get her lines finished at the beginning and not have to nervously wait all play. After that, she really only had a few parts where she was on the stage in the background and once walking depressed-like with two other students across the stage. Easy enough. They were about 30 minutes into the play. Somehow the minutes ticked by both quickly and slowly. With each new scene, a new wave of anxiety came over Jen. It's closer. It's almost time. Jen felt like she could hardly breathe during the scene before hers. Jen was waiting with two other students in the same scene as her. When Miss Collins walked up, "Jen, are you ready?" she said in a calm and hushed tone, which still somehow startled Jen, even though she saw her walk over. Yeah. Just like we practiced. Be the part. You can do it. Okay. Jen found it comforting that she entered the stage with two other students, both upperclassmen. Although they both exited after their lines, leaving her alone on the stage, at least she didn't have to walk on the stage alone. Jen noted how bright the lights were as the three of them walked on the stage. Luckily, she didn't have to go first. Jen stood stage left next to a prop wall just as they practiced. She stood waiting for the upperclassman named Kyle to begin his lines. Jen began to give a nervous smile until she remembered to be in character and quickly frowned. It's not my fault I'm so cool and popular and good at sports. I don't face much rejection, but when I do, it's for being too cool, popular, and good at sports. People are like, "Oh, your life is so easy," like it's something I should feel bad about. Well, you know what? I don't feel bad. I'm not going to apologize for being good at life, Kyle said with convincing arrogance. The next was a sophomore named Paige, played the part as Sarah the socialite. And she said her line. "You shouldn't have so many boyfriends, Sarah. You don't have to jump from boyfriend to boyfriend, Sarah. I can't help that I'm a hot commodity. I like being liked. Why should I suppress who I am?" And then it was her turn. Jen started. "They tell me everyone is important, but sometimes I just don't feel like it. I feel like nothing. Sometimes I just sit in my room alone and cry." Jen said her lines convincingly, with good enunciation and volume. But Jen turned to leave, happily relieved that she did her part without problem. Then it happened. Whether it was from an old chair, a piece of stage, lighting, props, or simply dropped from the sky, there it was, a simple metal screw. As Jen turned to exit, she placed the forefoot of one of her new heels directly onto the screw. The screw, as if made of ice, slipped right out from underneath Jen's right foot. Jen's right leg followed and slid out from under her, and her body flung awkwardly to the ground. Her hand caught something sharp from the corner of the fake wall as she tried to keep herself from falling and hit her head on the ground. She wasn't really hurt. Yes, her knee, head, rear, and hand all ached, but it was obvious to Jen that she wasn't seriously hurt. She sat up, taking quick inventory of herself. She noticed that luckily her black skirt had landed exactly where it should. She had one leg forward, one leg back, and knees together. It took about 1 second to actually fall, but the moment seemed exaggerated in time, as she heard a cacophony of gasps, conversations, and even laughter from some teenage boys. But then she heard the one thing she least wanted to hear. Lena. "That's my baby! Jenny, are you okay? That's my baby!" Lena screamed as if Jen was bleeding out on the stage. Her mom sounded so crazy, like out of a mental hospital crazy. She sat there dazed for half a moment, knowing she needed to get up fast. She could hear her mom's voice coming closer and closer. Jen got up quickly as she could in her skirt and heels and turned and bent down to her mom, who was now at the stage. "Mom, I'm fine. I just felt I'm okay," Jen said, trying to keep her voice down yet forceful. Jenny, are you okay? Are you okay?" Lena said, still shouting from the edge of the stage, not 3 feet from Jen on stage. "Mom, I'm fine. I just fell. Go sit down. I'm fine." "Jenny, you're hurt. We have to take you to the doctor," Lena replied, still shouting. "Mom, I'm fine. Go sit down." Jen shouted this in an angry tone. She looked up and noticed the entire audience silently staring at them, wide-eyed, many with mouths agape. Jen turned to the audience. "I'm fine. Thank you. I'm fine. Thanks." Turning to Lena in a restrained voice, she said, "Mom, I'm fine. Go sit down. I'm leaving. I'm fine. I don't need a doctor. I'm leaving." At this, Jen turned from the audience and walked toward backstage and the side door that led into the hallway. As she walked away, she heard her mom calling, "Jenny!" But at least she wasn't yelling anymore. It sounded like an usher or someone was trying to get her to go sit down, but Jen didn't look back. There were 2 stage hands and 2 actors near the backstage door that led into the school. All 4 were gazing at Jen with interest, one of the actors with disbelief. She looked blankly at them and kept walking. As she turned past the group, she heard one of the boys say in a quiet, high-pitched, mocking voice, "That's my baby," followed by the giggle from a girl in the group. Jen slammed the door's metal crash bar and turned and stared at the boy with anger. The boy froze in a half smile that faded to a straight face. It wasn't until Jen was striding to the hallway and the door swung shut that she could hear them start laughing again. The click of her heels down the mint-colored hallway was annoyingly loud. Jen was unsure whether it was the fact that she was walking so fast or she never wore heels that made it so obnoxious. She ducked into the doorway, closer to the main hallway, when she saw someone coming. It was a middle-aged lady dressed in a striped green shirt and blue floral leggings, looking for the restroom. Jen successfully ducked into the doorway, and the lady seemed to miss Jen completely. She stood there for a moment and was relieved to hear the next scene begin from a distance. As she was about to emerge from the doorway, she saw the familiar faces of Morgan, followed by Drake and Zoe exiting the back of the theater. Jen didn't even know they were at the play. "Oh my gosh, that was straight crazy," Zoe said, laughing. "That's my baby, Jenny, that's my baby," Drake said in a mocking, high-pitched voice. "That was some crazy said Morgan, laughing. "You recorded that, Morgan, right?" Zoe asked. "Yeah, that's going to be effing viral," said Drake with a laugh. "Yeah, I got it. I'm posting it now. You're literally going to have thousands of hits by tomorrow. Play it again." The 3 stared at Morgan's phone, laughing. "That's my baby. Jenny, you're hurt. We take you to the doctor." Talk about a total loser moment. Nobody's going to talk to her again, Drake said, laughing again and again. I don't know, Drake. Morgan here is like best friends with her, Zoe said with eyebrows raised. No, I'm not. We're not even friends this year, Morgan said, as a matter of fact. Jen could hear no more. She emerged from the doorway and walked straight past the three, who immediately stopped talking. They stood and stared blankly as Jen walked past. Jen only locked eyes with Morgan for a second and said, I'm glad we're not friends this year, Morgan, and walked away. Morgan said nothing, and then as Jen was walking away, well, we're not. Jen kept walking, but could hear Drake and Zoe laugh, and then Drake say, Jenny, my baby, I think you need to see a doctor. The last thing Jen heard was their laughing before she shoved open the double doors through the next section of the hallway. Jen felt lightheaded. She felt somehow separate from the person walking down the hallway. Her mind went back to the moment. Not the moment on stage in front of everyone, but the moment she knew that her life was going to be different from everyone else's. And that was chapter 16. Whew, yikes. So, it was kind of intense, a little crazy. Yeah, this is kind of, like slipping, like falling like the stage is probably like an 8 out of 10 for like embarrassment, but then your mom coming up screaming like you're dying, just absolutely like crazy, like it's probably like just completely off the spectrum there of the off the scale, like way past 11 as far as embarrassing. Yeah, and then of course welcome to the 21st century. They they caught it on video and they're gonna apparently post it and everything. So yeah, pretty wild. Pretty rough. Rough day for Jen at the play and everything. Yeah, I kind of go into the part. I think 90%. I was kind of thinking about this the other day, but I bet you 90% of the people in the world, I feel like, would be like, I just feel terrible for this girl that just happened. But that 10%. Especially like in like adolescence, they're always like, it's probably more than 10% for adolescents, but they want to like mock you or like kind of hit you when you're down or like laugh at you like you're like this. I feel like adolescents sometimes don't realize that like their peers are real people that like really, like I think most of them do, but like there's some of them that just like don't even, like they're kind of oblivious to the fact that this is an actual person that is devastated right now, and it's totally fine to like just like mock them. I'm sure a lot of my listeners out there, you've been in those situations where people just like absolutely just like brutal. They will hit you when you're down, like you go through something bad. And I mean, like hopefully you have people there in your life that are the opposite. But like I'm sure there's always those people that like want to see you fail, like they want to see you fail, or like. Maybe not you, they just wanted like a good time. Like it was hilarious that this happened to you. Like your embarrassing moments. Like there's always like somebody there to like laugh or like totally like kind of hit you when you're down. I feel like adolescents are like such jerks. So it's like 10% that like, yeah. So, and then of course I think just obviously just making it 100 times worse is the dagger from Jen to, from Morgan talking about how they weren't even friends this year. Like number one, like, Morgan not sticking up for Jen in the slightest. And I think it's kind of a tough spot to be in Morgan, because I don't think Morgan like really hates Jen or anything like all of a sudden. I think there's like Morgan still likes Jen. It's just she was sort of like cornered from her like new best friend Zoe, who she, wants to, they're still like close, or like their new best friends. They want to like, always be in sync in something. And then also this boy that she's like crushing on. And I think because her best friend and this like, and her like crush both are kind of like like all like ganging up on Jen a little bit with this, or like, like just don't really care about Jen at all. And just like for the humor factor of like, just all this craziness just happened. Like, I think I think it's because of that Morgan's willing to do that. Like, Morgan doesn't exactly, like, say anything about them not being friends. It was only until, like, Zoe was like, I don't know, Drake. Morgan's, like, best friends with this girl kind of thing. Like, it was, like, after that comment, then she's finally like, yeah, we're not really friends kind of thing. But I don't think Morgan would have volunteered that and be like, oh, screw Jen, we're not even friends. But at the same time, she was, like, quick to, like, post that video and not even care because her friends asked him. So it's like, I think with Morgan, it's just, like, the idea of being popular is, like, the most important kind of thing to her, or at least to, like, it please her, like, these new friends. I don't think it's that she literally just, like, all of a sudden hates Jen. It's just that she has prioritized her friends. And then, especially thinking that Jen's not in the room, you know, why not throw her under the bus because she's not going to be there anyways. She's not going to hear, but then, of course, she did, and it was bad. So, I mean, it's pretty rough, though. Like, I don't think I've ever really been to that point where I don't think I've ever been kind of, like, stabbed in the back like that. I mean, it's not, like, I guess, completely out of nowhere, but, like, still, like, completely, you know, I had a girlfriend that, like, cheated on me one time, you know, like, you know, but even that was, like, you know, it wasn't really going well, so, like, even though I was kind of, like, mad about it, like, what the crap, you know, at the same point, I was, like, kind of like, like, I was, like, mad about it, but I was more, like, mad about, like, you're an idiot, like, you know, I can do better than you, you know, like, I don't know. That's the kind of, like, I always kind of felt like more like that than, I wasn't really devastated by it because I was probably more sad that it wasn't going well, you know, the months previous. I was more sad then, you know, when I kind of felt like things weren't going well, and even, like, you know, I felt like even, like, God was even, like, sharing me, like, hey, you need to break up with this girl, and I was like, what? Why? I don't understand. You know, like, you know, she's a Christian too. You know, I remember, like, thinking that, like, you know, I don't know, she goes to church too, so, like, why would, you know, like, I don't know, like, you know, it wasn't after the fact. I was like, oh, that's why God was telling me I should break up with this girl, because, you know, it is not good. Anyways, yeah, but that, I can't really think of, actually I thought this other story, too, about somebody kind of, I don't know why this is so random, this story, but, like, somebody kind of, you know, hitting me behind my back or kind of stabbing me back. And it wasn't, you know, so I had this one situation, right, where, all right, so I was an RA in college, right? I was a resident assistant, right? So in our way our college, like, worked, my undergraduate, we, you know, you had a resident director who was, like, a grown-up in charge of the whole dorm, right? But then on each floor of the dormitory, they hired what they call residence assistants, where, like, basically, I would go there and I'd be like the point person for, like, anyone on the floor that had, like, an issue, right? I would, like, every once a couple weeks I had to do, like, room checks just to make sure people weren't doing, like, fire hazard stuff, you know, like, they weren't, like, you know, setting the building on fire and stuff like that. Like, I'd have to go through that, do different things. But I was kind of there to kind of, like, hey, this is what our policy is for, like, living in the dorm. This is, like, all this stuff. And I would go through it, and I, honestly, like, I was kind of good at it, but at the same point, I did it during the year I did it was, like, my absolutely most busy semester of my entire schooling kind of thing. So, like, I wasn't in the dorm a lot. I was, like, actually, like, legit studying because I had, like, this crazy block of, like, classes. They called it, like, the education block. And it was just, like, you know, there was just so many, like, projects we had to do. We had these, like, 4 classes. It was really only, like, 4 classes, but then it was, like, I also had to have, like, do student teaching at the same time. So normal college, you have these classes, but then you have, like, a lot of extra time. Well, there was a lot less time because I was in the classroom, like, at a school. It's kind of like for our school, it was like our first student teaching, right? We had to do this program where we're there for, like, you know, you're there, like, 2 or 3 times a week. And then you had your student teaching where you were there, like, every day. So in the midst of the 2 or 3 times a week, we had, like, actual classes and, like, tons of work and papers and projects. And it was just it's, like, the most ridiculous semester probably I've ever had, honestly, in all my years of education. Yeah, I think it was harder than everything I did in grade school and grad school. Those are, like, the same thing anyways. So in this crazy semester, so long story short, like I was gone a lot. I had people breaking policy, on my thing. I may or may not have been, kicking a puffy ball around the hallway with one of my people on my floor. Those like really really big balls from like they're almost kind of like a I don't know, almost like a yoga ball or something like that. Like you do like Pilates on or something, or the one that Dwight had for like an episode of The Office. He wanted to use it instead of a chair because it helped his core or something. It's kind of like that, but it was like kind of like cheaper material that was like softer. Like it's like a typical like kids ball. Like they like sell those like with kids. Anyways, we were kind of like just kicking this ball back and forth in the hall, right? No big deal. Apparently you're not supposed to do that, but I was like, it's not gonna do anything. Well, one of the lights didn't have a cover on like it was supposed to, so because it was uncovered, when I kicked the ball, it broke a light, and the light bulb popped, and the fluorescent light bulb popped and stuff like that. So they didn't like that. And then I had one other issue with, the college I went to was kind of strict about having like guys and girls in the same room and stuff like that. And over break, I like went and hung out with one of my friends' room and stuff like that, which from what I understand was actually a pretty normal thing. And like we didn't really have to follow the same rules or something like when it was like during break. But anyways, apparently we did, and I got in trouble for that. And then there was the whole debacle where we were supposed to have I don't know why I'm telling all these crazy stories. And there's one other thing too that did not go over well with my bosses. Is we had to do like a public service announcement, right? And like they were stupid, the public service, because they were something like, "Oh, do you need to recycle?" And it's supposed to make like a poster, right? "Oh, you should recycle. Save the earth, recycle." Or, "Hey, have you checked yourself for a prostate exam?" Do you know what I mean? And they would like do like, and the people would do like silly, ridiculous things, right? Like they would like, those sound like normal, but they would like make them like as silly and outrageous as possible, like almost making a joke out of them, but they would just do it because they had to do it. That's what most of like the resident assistants did, right? So I'm like, look, if we're doing this, like whatever, I'm going to do how to wrap a Christmas present. And that was my public service announcement. And I did it on the back of wrapping paper, and they didn't think, I thought it was hilarious. I had friends on the floor that thought that was hilarious. That was my public service announcement, how to wrap a Christmas present. Because some of these dudes like probably didn't know, I'm with a bunch of like, 19-year-old dudes, like they probably didn't know how to wrap a present. But they didn't think it was funny, even though the kids on my floor thought it was funny. And I really don't think it was much worse than all the other kids. So anyway, say all this to say, right? So, when I went to get hired back as a resident assistant for my second year, they did not hire me back. And I was like, dang, what? I don't understand. Like at first I kind of didn't get it. Then I'm taking note of like all the different things that happened throughout the year. And I'm like, oh yeah. Not to mention we had some kids like break pretty big policies on my floor, but like I wasn't there. Like that shouldn't exactly be held against me because like I can't control what other people do. It's not like I told them they should break policy. They just kind of did it. So I think it was just more reflection that it just reflected poor on me, So long story long, I did not get hired back as a resident assistant, right? And I was like, all right, man, I get it. Like it sucks. I feel like I could actually be good at this job, and I probably could do a better job the second time around because my schooling isn't as crazy this next year, and all that. But I didn't get hired, so whatever. So then I go on to the next year. So it's like the spring of that year. I find out spring of my junior year. All right, I'm not gonna get hired back as a resident assistant. What can I do instead? So I was like, all right, well, there's a job on campus. Because I was like having a little job, just get some extra money and stuff like that on campus. So I was like, all right, there's a job as a student admissions counselor where I can help like incoming students, like kind of work as an admissions counselor and like help get like new high school kids like come to the college, right? So I'm like, all right, that sounds cool enough. Like, I had a couple friends that were doing it. I was like, all right, I'll jump on this, right? And you need a letter of recommendation from someone in your college, right? So I was like, all right, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll just, I don't know who should I have from a college. I don't know. Maybe I'll have my resident director guy that I worked with. Like I felt like him and I were cool, even though, he didn't hire me back. But like, I get it. Like, kind of thing. Like, I get, like, a lot of crazy stuff happened. Like, whatever. I get it. I'm not going to hold it against him. Like, he said that we were still cool. So, like, I believed him. So I felt good about it. I straight up asked him. I was like, hey, bro, like, would you be willing to, like, write me a letter of recommendation? I'm supposed to have one for the student admissions counselor. Like, would you be, like, cool with that? Like, I know the RA job didn't work out, but, like, I get it. Like, it's cool. Like, would you, like, write me a letter of recommendation, right? So he was like, yeah, oh, that's cool. That's cool that you're doing, like, something else. Like, you're not just going to, I knew you to get the job. Like, he kind of, like, echoed what I said. Like, yeah, man, nothing against you, bro. Like, we could hire you back. Everything happened. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll totally write you a letter of recommendation, right? So he, like, writes me his letter, right? And he, gives it to me, like, a couple days later. Oh, when do you need it? I need it, like, next couple days. If that's cool. All right, I'll write you a letter. Okay, whatever. And he hands it to me. And, like, the envelope, he hands me his envelope. And it was, like, sealed or whatever. And my buddy just happens to be like, hey, are you going to, like, read that before you, like, give it to the people, like, as their admissions counselor, right? And I was like, well, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It probably doesn't matter, right? He's like, man, I don't know. You should probably just, like, read that just to make sure, like, it's good. He's like, and I was just kind of like, yeah, like, I asked him to write me a letter of recommendation. I mean, like, I'm sure it's, like, good. But he's like, I don't know. Then I'm not thinking, I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I should check it. I was like, well, envelope sealed. He's like, I don't know, man. I would just, like, check it anyways. You can always reseal it or whatever. I was like, all right. So I was like, okay, all right, maybe I should. So I literally go into this letter of recommendation, right? It was absolutely insane. I don't understand why this dude was just like, nah, man, you know what? I actually don't feel comfortable writing you a letter of recommendation. Just too much stuff went on and stuff like that. I'm sure there's lots of people on the campus that you get that from, but, like, I just can't. I don't feel comfortable writing you a letter of recommendation, right? That's what he should have said. But instead, bro goes through and literally a third of the letter, it's like a full page letter, right? A third of the page is why I would be good at the job. And 2/3 of this stupid letter of recommendation was why I would not be a good at this job. And he goes in, like, talking about every single thing I did wrong, like, as, like, an RA, right? And again, I could give an argument why it really wasn't that crazy. Like, I don't know. Again, like, I really don't think I did that bad of a job. Like, whatever. People, if you talk about, like, over break, me hanging out with, like, a couple of friends and stuff like that, that was something that RAs did all the time. But, like, the one kid got, like, caught for it. And, like, I just said, then I was, like, just honest about what happened. So I didn't even really know that was a policy or whatever. I don't know. All this stuff, man. It was crazy, bro. He acted like I was, like, the worst in the world, and I was not, actually. But anyways, just the fact that he did this. So I just wanted to write to him. I was like, bro. I kind of went right to him and was like, bro, what in the heck? Bro, like, why are you trying to sabotage me like this? He's like, what? This letter of recommendation. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm just being honest about this stuff. I was like, bro, this is not a recommendation if you spent over half of the page telling me I wouldn't be a good candidate. Like, literally ended the bottom with, like, would I recommend Aaron Gorley for this job? Yes, I would, but with strong hesitation. And I was like, what the crap? Like, that is not a letter of recommendation. That is literally, like, a hate letter. Why would you put that in there? And, like, he literally, like, did that there. It was so crazy, man. I don't know, bro. And I just told him, he was like, oh, I don't know, man. And he literally, like, I actually kind of believe him because he was, well, I don't know. After this, maybe he wasn't that honest, but, like, he was pretty honest about stuff. Like, like, he was even honest. I don't know. But he was just like, oh, well, I don't know, man. I just never read a letter of recommendation. I was kind of, like, was telling how you were as, like, an RA. And that's it. I was like, bro, that's not letter of recommendation. Like, just tell me no, you don't want to do it. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. Like, I've never done it before. And it was crazy. So I kind of felt like that was a little bit like stab in the back kind of thing. Although, thank God that like I caught that and I did end up getting the job as a student admissions counselor, and I was very good at it. And I even won prizes for getting so many people to apply to Geneva College, in Western PA. And I was awesome at it. And I was actually a good RA too, even though, it seems like I wasn't, but I was still. Anyways, so nonetheless, this is a crazy long story. That's like half the podcast is a story, but that's all right. So a couple of things I want to talk about a little bit. Just a couple of things. Like, it's interesting, like the beginning of the play where time felt slow and fast. I think when you're really nervous, sometimes it is. You're kind of like waiting. It's like going slow, but then it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost here. Wait a second. It's going so fast, but then it's slow and fast at the same time. And all that. A couple other things. One of the things about this whole play, by the way. This whole play I kind of like made up, obviously. There's not any plays that are called identities and have weird students commenting about their lives and different things. I totally made it up. It kind of sounds stupid, honestly. I kind of purposely did it because I think some plays are kind of dumb. I'm a big proponent of the theater. I do like plays and different things like that. I like dramas and theaters stuff. But some of them are dumb, Like, it's not just like, some people are just like, I love everything that's in the theater no matter what. And they're kind of like, I feel like they're like, just love seeing like live acting, and no matter what, they think it's good. Like, I'm not like that at all. It has to be good. It's kind of, to me, it's like a movie. It's like another format of a movie. And like, it has to be a good movie still, even if it's performed live. So I don't know. That's kind of look at it. And I'm not a fan of musicals, like, at all. I'm just not. Like, every once in a while, there's one like I kind of like, but like almost never do I like musicals, to the dismay of some of my friends that love musicals. Sorry, Danae. It's not my jam at all. Yeah, I don't like how they randomly, spontaneously singing. Like, we are singing, we are cleaning the floors, we are singing. And then another person comes in, yes, we are cleaning, we are singing and cleaning the floor. And they just kind of like, all of a sudden, everybody knows how, like, this song. It's like, how does everyone in the whole room know the same song? It doesn't even make sense. They just know this song, like, out of the blue. Were they, like, practicing beforehand? If not, it just doesn't make sense logically to me. And a lot of the songs are dumb. Every once in a while, obviously, there's like really cool songs from musicals and whatever. I get it, but just not my jam at all. Anyways, all right. So we are getting towards the end here. This is a pretty long episode here. A lot of crazy stuff happened, and I decided to go on and on with some of my stories, but whatever. Hopefully you're still enjoying it. Like a couple more chapters left, and that is it. Hopefully you're enjoying it. You have to kind of see what happens next chapter. Most people read the book say the next chapter is the best of the book. I've gotten that many times, and it really is kind of the heartbeat of the whole book, the next chapter. So I hope that you are going to like it and it goes well with you. All right, well, thank you for listening to all my crazy ramblings and stories, and I hope that you have a great day. All right, thanks for listening.